We have a gray Jeep Compass that's blocking a driveway. Wonderful. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for that, Abby. Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Free. I'm Ryan. I'm the pastor and executive director here, and this is Abby Alt, one of our
Hello.
home team leads here at Free. And listen, this is a community for addicts, loved ones of addicts, and spiritual refugees. And what we do here is break the silence of addiction. Before we do the next thing, though, I got to welcome our online people. So glad you're with us wherever you're joining us from this evening. We're glad you're here. We're glad you're part of this community. You are us and we are you. All right, y'all. There is one thing we don't do in this community, and we can shout it out all four words together. If you don't know the four words, if you're new here, you're going to learn them very soon. One, two, three.
We don't do shame.
We don't do shame here at Free. Abby, you want to tell us some things going on that people might want to know
I
about?
would love to. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. We're so happy to have you. Right outside these doors, we do have welcome bags. They have some freshly roasted wagon coffee, as well as some free swag and a Connect card so we can keep you up to date on all the happenings here at Free. Like August 4th, we have our Recovery Art Show here. It will be out in the cafe. It's from our friends, Colorado Artists in Recovery. It is from 5 to 8 p.m. The cafe will be open, so come take a look at some art, visit, have some coffee. It's going to be a really great
It's gonna
event.
be a fun evening. Hope y'all come.
And that's all I got.
Is that all you have?
That's it.
Well, thank you, Abby.
Of course.
We'll see more of you later because Abby is interviewing our guest storytellers, David and Erica Garrity, and it's going to be all kinds of fun. We're grateful for you all and grateful for you for doing that, Abby.
Thanks a lot.
All right, see you soon. Hey, I just want to say a few words. First, the golf tournament was last Monday. All kinds of fun. No, I did not play golf because I'm not a golfer, but I did. Tammy and I rode around in a golf cart and talked to people. It looked like everyone was having a good time. Thank you for everyone who participated in that. This fundraiser for we're calling it the Home at Last campaign. To purchase this building, which appraises at $3.77 million. We're able to purchase this building at $1.3 million all in. That allows this place to be our permanent home. So I mentioned that, and we don't know numbers from the golf tournament yet, but I'll get that to you as soon as we know. We got to get the numbers figured out of how much we raised. But we had a very generous donor. I talked about this with you last week, and he said, "Hey, I want to give $25,000." But I would love to see if the community could match this, and I'll match anything given up to $25,000. And so this will go for the next 3 weeks. It started last week. It's a 4-week deal. If you want to give to the campaign and you want to get it matched, we're looking for 250 people to give $100. And maybe that's why you can't give $100 like all at once. Whoa, who's this from? Chris Mers just handed me $100. I guess that's a matching gift. Thank you, Chris. All right, there's one. So we're looking for 249 people. No, the truth is, last week we raised just around $6,500 to be matched because you all got bold and brave and did your thing like you do, and other people in the community. And a beautiful thing. So if you want to give to that, if you want to get it matched, when you go online, you got to click the Home at Last button on giving. There's a drop down, and you can either click General or Home at Last. And in the memo, if you do that, click or write in the memo, match me, so we can be sure to get it matched up to $25,000. This will go for 3 more weeks. Thank you so much for being a part of this campaign. So grateful to get this place to be our permanent home. That's a big deal. So thank you for that. The other thing I want to let you all know is so in August, you've heard me talk about this a few times. In August, we're doing our F Fentanyl series. This will be a 2-week series because you all do know we have a fentanyl epidemic on our hands. You know this, right? I'm seeing some shirts in the house tonight. Fentanyl sucks. Yeah, we have a crisis that we're dealing with. So that's going to be August 19th and 26th. I want to say a word about the 19th. One service that night. So don't come to the 5 o'clock service if you're a 5 o'clocker. Come for the 7 o'clock. We're going to have a panel discussion. We've got some great panelists. Eric Kellogg, who's with the Arvada Police Department, the commander there. Keith Hayes with the director at 5280 High School. Nancy Lorenzon, she's a DU professor. Sarah Hornbuckle with the Hornbuckle Foundation is a great panel, and we are going to talk about this fentanyl crisis. There's going to be all kinds of events that evening, so come early at 5 o'clock. We're going to have a food truck here. The first 100 people to come get free food. So if you want free food of the food truck, come early. That's at 5. There's a Narcan training throughout the evening. There's a safe site drug disposal that's going to be here. The cafe is going to be packed out with different recovery vendors and resources for us to learn together and address this problem together as a community. So I hope you plan on coming. I hope you invite friends to this. Bring family, friends. Anyone's welcome, but there will only be one service that night on the 19th, and that is the panel discussion. So I hope y'all come. It's going to be good. All right, y'all. The way we kick things off in this free community every Saturday night is with celebrations. We lift up the good. We start with the good. The new that's happening in your life. Maybe that's a sobriety anniversary, a birthday, a new baby, new job, new home. Whatever the new thing is, we want to celebrate it together. A very important part of our time together. God joins with us in the celebrations. We take 3 minutes for this. If you're online, just drop your celebration in the YouTube comments or Facebook comments, whatever platform you're joining us from. Paul will pass around a mic. Chase will pass around a mic. And y'all got 3 minutes. Let's celebrate, shall we?
I'm Kai, and I have 134 days free of fentanyl, and I passed my ASVAB test, so I'm going to school for sheet metal.
All right, Kai. Big things happening in your life. So you can get clean from fentanyl. A very important message.
My name's Paige, and I just wanted to celebrate that my daughter turned 1, and me and my boyfriend were both sober and present for it.
Yes. Sober and present for the 1-year birthday. Good stuff, Paige.
Hi, my name is Abby, and yesterday I celebrated 6 years of recovery.
Way to go, Abby! Woo-hoo!
Hi, my name is Anita, and I'm 90 days sober.
Way to go, Nita. Glad you're here.
My name's Paul. A friend of mine in recovery, Chase, is here with us tonight.
All right,
For the
welcome,
first
Chase.
time.
First time, Chase. Welcome to Free. Glad you're here, brother.
My name's Jill, and I am celebrating a childhood friend that has come from Chicago to visit, and we are really having fun reconnecting, and I'm so happy to share Free with her. And I celebrated 11 months on Thursday.
All right, all kinds of new things. Way to go, Jill. And welcome to you. Glad you're here.
My name is Jeff. Excuse me. I started a new job this week with Fourth Dimension Recovery. And if the Lord's willing and the creek doesn't rise too high, September 29th, I'll celebrate 30 years clean.
30 years clean. Big stuff, man. Good stuff. Anyone else? We still have a minute left. You ain't got to be bashful.
I'm Steve, and I have finally 51 days sober.
Way to go, Steve. Glad you're here, man.
I'm happy to say that my wife and I were addicts together, and we got clean together. We've been clean for 6 months.
Good stuff, man. Congratulations.
Last week on Thursday, I got 3 years.
Way to go, Nicole. We got time for one more.
My name's Layla. I have 129 days sober today, and I just threw my daughter's baby shower for her for my second grandchild today. So.
All right. Good stuff.
We got one more over here.
One more. Let's do one more.
I'm Sayla, and my 13th birthday is in 5 days.
Oh, frontsies, frontsies. We're going to have a teenager in the house. Paul, you want to join me up here for celebrations? Chase, you want to join me up here for celebrations? One of y'all joining me up here for celebrations because my wife, Tammy, is, we can celebrate this. I mean, not celebrate that she's not here. But she is with her mother and her sisters on the Western Slope celebrating, I don't know, girl time together. So they're off having a good time, and she's not here tonight. Welcome, Paul. I'm glad you're here. My wife is better to look at, though. Just know this. But all you got to do is read the screen. She's got more hair than you, yes. We'll celebrate with our online people and see what they have to say.
Okay, it's Levon, 8 months today.
Way to go, buddy.
Excellent.
Glad you're with us tonight.
Way to go, dude.
Christy says, so thankful for a beautiful and restful vacation. Just sad we didn't make it into Denver to see y'all. We love our family. They're from the East Coast, but they were out on, they were in Edwards, Colorado for a week. And hey, we love that y'all are part of this community. Sorry we missed you, but we'll celebrate that, right?
Yep. Jen, on August 7th, I will have 3 years, 11 months. Woo! Each day I keep choosing me. It ain't always easy, but it sure is worth it. God is good.
That's good. That's a good word. Congratulations, Jen. Ricky Salazar, a brother from down in Texas, says, celebrated my 43rd and 5th sober birthday this month. Got a new job and enjoying every day in recovery. Love y'all. Ricky, we're glad you're here, brother. Congratulations, man. And I think that's it. Paul, you did a great job. Thanks for joining me up here.
Thank you for allowing me. Thanks.
All right, y'all. We are in, so I told you what's coming up, but we are in now the 4th week of this 4-week series on breaking the silence.
You think you own me, but you don't. You think you can destroy me. You can't. Your labels do not contain me. Your lies do not intimidate me. I will not be less than what I was created to be, and I will not run in fear. Time and time again, you've held me down, but not today. Today, I win the battle. Today, you run from me, because I am strong. I am courageous.
When our daughter Shiloh was 5 years old, she's 10 now, but when she was 5, she had her Hello Kitty helmet with her Hello Kitty bicycle with the wraparound handlebars. And man, she loved to ride that thing. And she was so adamant when she was 5 years old that she was ready to ride that bicycle without the training wheels on it. I mean, she begged us to take off the training wheels. So that summer, we took the training wheels off, and we would go outside with Shiloh on several occasions to the sidewalk right in front of our house, and we would give her a little push, and she would go about 3 feet, and then she would fall over. And then she'd get back up again. We'd give her a little push, and she'd go about 3 feet, and then she'd fall over, and she'd get back up again. We'd give her a little push. She'd go 3 feet and then fall back over. I mean, y'all, this happened for weeks. Poor Shiloh, she had scraped up knees and bumps and bruises everywhere. And there was this moment where I thought, man, I don't think she's going to get it. I don't think this is for her. I think she's going to be like 19 years old, still riding a Hello Kitty bicycle with the training wheels. Until that, it was funny, wasn't it? Thank you for that. Until one fall day, we went outside with Shiloh, out to the sidewalk in front of our house, and I gave her a little push, and she started to pedal. And on that day, in that moment, something clicked because she was riding her bicycle up and down the street without training wheels. And there was one moment, I'll never forget it. She looks back at me. She's got the wraparound handlebars, and she looks back and screams at the top of her lungs, "Poppy, look at me. I'm doing it. I'm doing it." See, that girl has grit. She was absolutely committed to riding that bicycle without training wheels. And you know what grit is, don't you? Grit is any time you keep engaging even when it's hard. Grit is any time you fall down and you get back up again. You fall down and you get back up again. You fall down and you get back up again. And the fruit of grit is when you can proudly wear that Hello Kitty helmet in your Hello Kitty bicycle, ride down the street and look back and say, Poppy, I'm doing it. Look at me. But let's be honest, because even then, she was still falling over. Because that's how life is, right? It can click, you can get it, and you're still going to fall down. There was moments where she would be riding up the hill and then would want to turn around and come back down the hill. But she would stop pedaling. What happens when you stop pedaling up a hill and you try to turn? Well, you don't have momentum, you just fall over. So she had to learn the art of keeping momentum and traveling up the hill and making the turn and keeping the momentum through the turn. And that stuff just takes time. Now, Angela Duckworth, she wrote a great little book called Grit, The Power of Passion and Perseverance. And she defines grit as the combination of perseverance and passion for a long-term goal. And she talks about perseverance as working hard, finishing what you start even though you encounter significant setbacks along the way. She talks about passion as having an internal commitment to something, and that internal commitment does not waver even when things get difficult. So, my brothers and sisters, I will ask you, when it comes to your life, do you have grit? When it comes to your faith or your spiritual path, do you have grit? When it comes to your recovery, do you have grit? And let me speak just real clearly on this one, because you do know grit will never be the thing to get you sober. How many of y'all tried to grit your way towards sobriety? Yeah, me too. You're going to have enough self-discipline this time. You're going to have enough self-will, and you're going to grit your way there. It doesn't work. But I would also remind you that grit is absolutely necessary in your recovery. Very important. So what I want to do with you is read a passage from a speech. This speech was written by Theodore Roosevelt in 1910. It was titled Citizenship in a Republic, but it was better known as The Man in the Arena. Some of you all will know it. Here's a passage from that speech. He said, "It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again. But there is no effort without error or shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly." And you know what's interesting about this speech? One of my favorite authors, and you all know this author too because I've talked about her enough times. I've recommended her enough times. Her name is Brené Brown. She wrote a book that was inspired by this speech. In fact, the title was from this speech, and this book, I highly recommend it. It's called Daring Greatly. In the opening lines of her book, she said these words. The first time I read this quote, this speech from Theodore Roosevelt, I thought, this is vulnerability. Everything I've learned from over a decade of research on vulnerability has taught me this exact lesson. Vulnerability is not knowing victory or defeat. It's understanding the necessity of both. It's engaging. It's being all in. So my brothers and sisters, when's the last time in your life, in your faith, your spiritual journey, your recovery, when's the last time you were all in? And you do know if you are living a life that is all in, you are going to fail. There will be moments where you totally miss it. You totally get it wrong. There will be moments when you fall flat on your face and you experience pain. But if you stay engaged, if you decide that when it comes to your life, you are going to be all in, you will also experience moments of tremendous peace and gratitude. Grit and failure always walk hand in hand. But see, the temptation is, it's to give up too soon. And some of y'all know something about this. Maybe you set out to do a project, or you set out to create a group of some sort, or you set out to create a business or an organization, and you didn't see the results that you hoped for. You didn't see the results you thought you were worthy of. They didn't come fast enough, so you just threw in the towel, you gave up. Or maybe in your recovery, you got sober and into recovery, but the newness of your recovery, it wore off. You stopped getting the accolades from friends and family. They just expected you to be a decent person now. Or you didn't get what you thought you wanted in recovery. Life started to get hard again. You started to encounter conflict, and it was just too much, and so you give up and you pick up. Or maybe with your spiritual path, like maybe you started a new relationship with God, and you thought, the deeper I go into this spiritual journey, the more answers I'm going to have, the more certainty I'm going to have. But what you found was the deeper you went into it, it just raised more questions and you had less certainty, which is a good thing, actually, but you didn't know what to do with it, and you couldn't discern God's voice from all the other voices, and so you just give up and go back to your old way, your own way. And some of you say to me, well, you got to understand, things got really hard. And that's why I gave up, because things got really hard. And we could ask you, well, where's your grit? Some of you could say, well, you got to understand that so-and-so said to me some very hurtful things that hurt my feelings, it affected my self-worth, and that's why I gave up. And we could ask you, well, where's your vulnerability? Because you do know, if you're living this life, unless you're under a rock, you are going to get hurt by people. Welcome to life. That's the way it is. But you also know you don't have to take everyone's voice. You don't have to take constructive criticism from those people who have never constructed something meaningful a day in their life. You don't have to do it. You don't have to take advice from people who know nothing about being in the arena. You know what I mean? Stop taking advice from people who know nothing about getting their ass kicked and then getting back up again. Choose wisely who you're going to take advice and suggestions from. Not everyone gets a say when it comes to your life and what you're doing. Now, there's a great story in the Old Testament book of Samuel. Great story. This story is about a young boy named Samuel, and he was being called by God. And I love this story because it's a story that is framed with all kinds of grit and failure. And I want you to see if you find yourself in this story. Just the first 11 verses of the 3rd chapter. Goes like this. Now the boy Samuel was serving the Lord under Eli. The Lord's word was rare at that time, and visions weren't widely known. One day, Eli, whose eyes had grown so weak he was unable to see, was lying down in his room. God's lamp hadn't gone out yet. And I want to pause for just one moment because there's imagery happening here that we got to know something about. Eli was a leader in Israel, and so you can think of Eli as Samuel's boss. But see, Eli made some very poor decisions. He lost his integrity as a leader. He made some very big mistakes. And so Eli's losing his leadership. That's the image of he can no longer see, he's unable to see. But God's lamp hasn't gone out yet. In other words, what the storyteller is telling us is just because someone falls doesn't mean God stops working in the world. God is still at work through people. Check it out. See if this is your story. The Lord called to Samuel. I'm here, he said. Samuel hurried to Eli and said, I'm here, you called me. I didn't call you, Eli replied. Go lie down. So he did. Again, the Lord called Samuel. So Samuel got up, went to Eli and said, I'm here, you called me. I didn't call you, my son, Eli replied. Go and lie down. A third time the Lord called Samuel. He got up, went to Eli and said, I'm here, you called me. Then Eli realized that it was the Lord who was calling the boy. So Eli said to Samuel, go and lie down. If he calls you, say, speak, Lord, your servant is listening. So Samuel went and lay down where he'd been. Then the Lord came and stood there, calling just as before, Samuel, Samuel. Samuel said, Speak, your servant is listening. The Lord said to Samuel, I'm about to do something in Israel that will make the ears of all who hear it tingle. How's that for a closing line? I don't even know what it means, but I think it's pretty serious, to make the ears tingle. I think what the storyteller is telling us is that God is about to do something new, and you, Samuel, are going to be a part of it. Now, why is this story interesting? Because Samuel totally misses it. He just totally gets it wrong. Not one time, not two times, but three times. He totally gets it wrong. Why is this story interesting? Because we can relate with that. Can't you? You know what would have made this story really uninteresting? If the storyteller would have told us, and on the first time God called, Samuel popped out of bed, put on his sandals and his robe, and said, Here I am, Lord, what are we going to do? Boring story. Because the truth is, stories of success without stories of failure are always boring. If you are the one at the dinner party always telling the stories of your success and leaving out the stories of failure, I hate to tell you, you are boring. Get a new story. No one likes that. It's not honest. It's not real. Did you all catch something very profound happened last week if you were here last week? It was during celebrations. Abby Alt. Is Abby Alt still here? There she is on the couch. Abby Alt and celebrations. We all celebrated it and clapped and hollered together. She let us know that she had passed a test that she was studying very hard for. It's the SIE test, right? SIE test, and this test would help her get to the next level in her career, and she was very proud of this, and we clapped together. We celebrated it. But do y'all know what makes that celebration interesting? It's because 3 weeks before that, she was here, and in Heartaches, she shared with us that she studied really hard for this test, and she failed it. And now she passed it. You see, the story of success becomes more interesting when we know the stories of failure. And y'all know what's so interesting about the story of Samuel? It's interesting because it's all about grit. Samuel keeps engaging even when he gets it wrong, even when he falls flat on his face. The truth is, Samuel could have stayed in bed. He could have stayed in bed all day. On that fourth time, he could have said, Nah, I ain't getting back up. I'm tired of it. I'm going to stay in bed. You can do the same thing. You can stay in bed. But by the fourth time, Samuel was all in. He essentially says, All right, God, let's do this. And y'all, don't miss the grace in this story. Because who's the one who is the primary actor? It's God. Who's the one who is doing the initiating? Who speaks first? God. Who keeps calling even when Samuel gets it wrong? God. And something tells me there would have been a fifth time and a sixth time and a seventh time, however many times it takes, because God never gives up on us. You know, this week, it was a very interesting week for me. And I knew this week was coming several weeks in advance. So it didn't exactly sneak up on me. You see, I knew on Sunday, which was 6 days ago, I had to do a wedding. Beautiful time. And then I knew on Monday it was our big fundraising golf tournament. It was all day thing, beautiful time. And then I knew on Thursday I had to be up in Glenwood Springs to give a keynote address to a recovery conference in Glenwood Springs. And I had the whole week planned out. Because you know do y'all ever get those busy weeks and you know they're coming? And so when I have those weeks coming, I plan the whole thing out. Sometimes like every hour of each day has to be planned out so I can complete these tasks. And so I had it all planned out. And the problem is, Tuesday at 3 o'clock in the morning, I wake up and I am puking my guts out. And I've got fever and chills. And my wife tells me that I'm the loudest puker on the planet. And y'all don't understand. It was like an exorcism. Stuff was coming out of me, and I had to get it out. And I don't know if you all know this about me, but when I'm sick, I don't do very well. I always think I'm dying. If I get a fever, I'm dying. Like Tammy, get a notebook because I need to write out the will and let the kids know that I love them. I mean, I just don't do well when I'm sick. But the real problem there was I had Tuesday and Wednesday carved out to prepare for this keynote and to prepare for tonight. And then Tuesday hits, and I literally could not get out of bed. I was in bed all day. I couldn't even keep my eyes open. I would open the laptop and I'd fall asleep. I couldn't do anything. Wednesday wasn't much better. I was a little bit better, but I was still in bed. And I'm getting this resentment. I'm starting to get angry. I'm freaking out a little bit. I'm saying, how am I going to go give this hour-long keynote presentation and I can't prepare for it? I mean, I had the presentation on slides and Danny helped put that together with me, but I hadn't talked through it. I didn't get to prepare the way I like to prepare for these sorts of things. How am I going to do this? And I considered calling them and telling them I couldn't come. And then Thursday I wake up and I felt human again. Man, do you all know that feeling? It's like a rebirthing experience. You know, like you forget how good it is to feel normal. And so me and my 7-year-old boy, Breck, we get in the car and we jump on I-70 and we start to head towards Glenwood Springs. And y'all, sometimes I am just like Samuel. I cannot discern God's voice from all the other voices. And sometimes I'm just like Samuel. God's voice is so clear and I can actually show up for it. And man, that happened to me on I-70 driving up to Glenwood Springs. And y'all, it's not always this way. But God's voice was so clear to me, it was almost audible. God said to me, Ryan, I've given you 2 days. I've watched you freak out for 2 days. And don't mishear me on this. I don't believe God ever gives us sickness. I don't believe God puts obstacles in our path to see how we're going to perform. But I do believe God is always with us in the obstacles. But God never causes a sickness. And God says, Ryan, I've watched you freak out for 2 days, and I know you're not feeling well. I know it's not 100%, but are you going to rely on your speaking abilities, or are you going to rely on me? Are you going to find strength in you, or are you going to find strength in outside of you? And y'all, I can't tell you what that moment felt like. Poor Breck, he's probably wondering, why is Pops crying in the driver's seat? Why are tears coming down his face? Because in that moment, I cannot explain to you, I was overcome with this sense of peace, overcome with gratitude. Because my wife, Tammy, she said something so profound that morning, and I didn't even catch it until I'm well down I-70. I was packing up my things and loading the car, and she said, isn't it weird? You get to go give a keynote and talk about recovery in the same hotel where you used to get drunk all the time. And I'm driving down I-70. I mean, when she said it, I was like, honey, I need my toothbrush. I got to get this, and didn't even catch it. Driving down I-70, and it's like, oh my goodness, I get to do this. I get to go talk about recovery at Hotel Colorado. That was my drinking grounds. Long story there, I'll tell you later, but man, that was the place where I could get away from Denver and not worry about seeing church people. That was where I could drink the way I wanted to drink and get good and drunk. And now I get to go in there and talk about recovery for an hour? So we walk into Hotel Colorado in Glenwood Springs. We said hi to a few people. Me and Breck are walking together, and I see that bar, and there's 2 double doors, and I stood there, not to romanticize the drink, not to romanticize old times, but I stood there, and it was like I had this moment with that bar. Like, oh my goodness, you don't have power over me anymore. God did something and is still doing something new in me, and it's enough to make my ears tingle just a little bit. You ever have those moments? And I get to be here at this conference with my boy, and we get to hang out and have fun together all the way sober. You see, those moments of grace will smack you upside the head in those moments where you feel like you have nothing left. And what I know is grit will take you a long way, but grace will be the thing that steps in to carry you. So, my brothers and sisters, whatever it is you're facing in life, I want to encourage you to keep going. Don't give up. Have some grit in your life. Especially in your recovery, don't give up. Because I promise you, you don't always know who's watching, who's listening, who's barely hanging on, and they're looking at you for hope. They're looking for models of hope. They're looking for words of hope. And there might be a point where you find yourself looking back saying, Poppy, look at me, I'm doing it. You get the fruits of that grit. But here's the thing. In the midst of all your grit, don't miss the grace. In those moments where you feel defeated and depleted, or you're puking your guts out and you're wondering how you're going to fulfill all the tasks that need to get done, allow grace to carry you. Rely on the God who calls you by name, the God who says, I'm doing a new thing. Rely on the God who says, come to me, all you who are weary, all you who have fallen down and tried to get back up again, the God who never gives up on you, the God who keeps calling even when you get it wrong. And maybe it's time for you to pop out of bed, put on the sandals and the robe and say, all right, God, let's do this. Let's do this. Because grit and grace always walk hand in hand. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to hear a song by the great Eminem, who is, by the way, 15 years sober. When I'm really looking for some inspiration in the gym and I need to push it a little further, I need some grit in my life, I turn on this song, Lose Yourself. So we're going to hear this song, and I've got some Post-it notes up here and pens. If you want to write a simple prayer like, all right, God, comma, let's do this, exclamation point. If you're dealing with something in your life and you're ready to actually show up for God calling you, well, maybe you want to write that simple prayer, all right, God, let's do this. You could stick it to the stage. Maybe you want to keep it in your pocket so you can read it tomorrow, but this time is yours. If you want to sit and reflect, you can do that too. This time is yours.
this is your first time joining us, you should know that every single week we have a guest storyteller to share their experience, strength, and hope with the topic at hand. And tonight we're lucky enough to have two. Our guest storytellers tonight are part of the home team. They have been coming to Free for a little over a year, and it's my pleasure to introduce David and Erica Garrity. Hi, guys. There you are.
Oh, I forgot about that part.
Too late.
When Ryan and I, were talking about who would be the perfect guest storyteller for tonight regarding Grit and Grace, you guys were the first people that we thought of. And just a little backstory. Erica is 17 years sober. Yeah. David is now currently working a program, and they have a child who is struggling in active addiction. So they really encompass kind of all that our community is about. So let's just kind of start at the beginning. I know that when you guys met, Erica, you were a year sober, and you guys met at a group, Parents with Purpose. Is that what it?
Parents Without Partners.
Oh, okay, Parents Without Partners. And it's a divorce group. And let's kind of just start there.
So we met on Mother's Day 2007. I've said this to many girlfriends that I married somebody I never would have dated. I had no interest at all in David whatsoever. Absolutely none. I barely even looked at him. So on our wedding day, my sponsor at the time actually came to our wedding, and she said, the reason that this is going to work is because God picked him, you didn't. Because my picker was broken. My first year in recovery, any guy in a meeting who had a heartbeat, I probably slept with, and dated, or slept with and then dated. I don't know, but I did a lot. I did a lot of chasing, trying to make myself feel whole, and it didn't work. And when I met David, it worked. So I had a list of my non-negotiables that my sponsor had made me write and when I started kind of looking at him, she said, go home and look at that list. And I pulled up the list and I was like, oh shit, this might be it. And here we are, we've been married 11 years and together 16. Yeah.
Something like that.
My favorite part of this story was, and let me just kind of set the stage here. So while I was interviewing them this past week, David didn't stop rubbing Erica's feet. They were very tender and loving with each other. And my favorite part of the story that you shared was on Mother's Day that Erica bolts. That's what she does. Erica's a bolter. And tell that story really quickly, because I think it really sets the stage for kind of how you found yourself in a relationship with a woman who was in active recovery.
Yeah, so like Erica said, she was there because she had kids and it was Mother's Day. I didn't have my kids that day, and so I was just showing up to be helpful to a friend that I knew was running this event. And as was mentioned earlier, once Erica left, her son had left behind the plant or whatever the thing was that they were making for Mother's Day. But she comes back and sends her, I believe, 5-year-old son at the time, from the parking lot across the small street into the pavilion where we were. I see this and basically, take the child by the hand and make sure that he gets his plant and makes it back to his mom. So that's kind of how we got started.
Yeah, and that kid is now 22 and lives in our basement.
And, here's Erica. They describe this story as, a lot of people don't realize that David is an Eagle Scout. So here's, this Eagle Scout and this bolter who's in active, recovery. And she shared with me that she realized when she fell in love with David, it was because he had soap in his trunk so she could wash her hands.
After a hike, yeah.
And, he said that's because he was always a problem solver for other people. So you guys get together, you're blending a family, which is incredibly difficult. And you told me, Erica, that you did not marry a man who was in active recovery or working a program, but you ended up with one. Can you share that with us?
So when David and I met, I had a year of sobriety. I was active in Alcoholics Anonymous, still am. 5 years ago, David picks me up from the airport from a business trip and asks me, hey, is there a program for parents of people who have a loved one who's an addict, which is his son? And I just started Googling it, and I found Nar-Anon. I took him to a meeting and was like, all right. That was it. I never went to another meeting with him again. He took it from there, and he's been in Nar-Anon 5 years, very active, runs a few meetings, but we speak the same language now. So it's kind of cool that I didn't marry a man in recovery, but I now have a man in recovery.
Yeah. And I think, this mic, I got to get used to it. This is not my normal scene. I'm the Eagle Scout and also the altar boy that pretty much lived by the rules and didn't draw outside the lines and pretty much stayed in the shadows. So I don't know anything about addiction. I don't know,
You do now.
I do now, but when things are overwhelming or when things are difficult, my go-to is rationalization, justification, and denial. I stick my head in the sand. The ostrich from a few weeks ago. I love the ostrich. Eeyore's a big friend, and the pufferfish shows up when all else fails. So that's my mentality. And then all of a sudden I'm dealing with my son, who I can no longer ignore his issues. And I had no clue what to do.
And can we touch on that a little bit, just of how families address, especially blended families, how you address, you shared with me that Erica kind of came to you and said, I think we have a problem. And your response was, I think he's great at business.
Yeah, a business conversation I know how to have because I'm a business person. I know how to have that conversation. Erica had been very gracious and had helped set up a breakfast meeting with my son where he essentially reveals to me he's having all these issues. I can't handle the truth. I used to say, I still share sometimes, I wouldn't know the truth if it walked up and introduced itself, because it frequently did. And it certainly did that morning. He was telling me about his mental health issues. He was telling me about his addiction issues. He was telling me about decisions that he was making in his life that were problematic. I can't handle that. I don't know what to do with that. So I ignored it for many years until I could no longer ignore it.
And that's when you found Nar-Anon. And just to share...
And Al-Anon.
David is the regional chair for Nar-Anon now, and which is an incredible organization that helps so many loved ones of addicts. What I found to be, such an impressive part of your story was when you shared with me, early on, you had no idea about addiction. And you had said to Erica one time that if she relapsed, the first call that you would make would be to her sponsor. And Erica, can you share with us what you said back to him? Because I related to this so much.
I immediately told him that if I ever relapsed, he needed to take any money that I hadn't taken from the bank accounts, change the locks, move, like just, I would torch our life overnight and in milliseconds. And I don't think he understood that because he hadn't heard much of my story. He had heard bits and pieces. And he knew I was an alcoholic, but until he really heard like the depths of what alcoholism was like for me and really heard the horror stories that we all have and sat in his own meetings of recovery, that's, I think, when he started to realize, okay, I get it. Like, making a phone call isn't going to do jack. Like, she is going to burn our life down.
And, there was a moment, and Erica can tell the story, where that almost happened. And I actually did call her sponsor. Actually, I think I texted because by then I had a smartphone and I knew how to do that. And, essentially the sponsor at the time texted me back and said, Erica has my number. She knows how to use it. There's nothing you can do. Enjoy the movie.
Yep.
I did not enjoy the movie.
And, Erica shared with me, like, when she was like, I will literally torch our lives. They have a Christmas stocking, if you want to share that story with us.
So this was before I met David, and before I got in recovery and stayed in recovery. I had a alcoholic episode, I guess, and ended up in the back of an ambulance with my kids who were, I don't know, 2 and 4 maybe at the time. They were young. But I almost burnt down the rental house. And so the Christmas stocking that my 22-year-old son still has today has ash on it. So it has like that smoky, sooted stuff because it was Christmas time. I've never replaced his stocking. And I've told him the reason his stocking is dark is because I almost burnt the house down.
You shared with me that you stay sober because you could never get on the elevator again, that the elevator only goes down for you.
I've seen too many people in recovery get back on that elevator and they died. And I had a sponsor early in sobriety that said, you can't undo dead, right? We can all have comebacks. We can all come back in the rooms over and over and over again, but we don't know if we're going to make it back. And my father died of alcoholism. He never met my children. And I took him to rehab, and I gave him man abuse, and I did all the things that I thought would fix him, and it didn't make a damn bit of difference because alcohol will always win. An alcoholic will always drink alcohol. And I tell my sponsors this all the time, right? The most natural thing for an alcoholic is to drink alcohol. The unnatural thing is for us to get into AA and put it down.
I really appreciated when we were talking how you shared a story that early in your relationship, David had a case of beer that had been in his refrigerator for over a year and it was flat. And that, Erica, you had such a hard time understanding how it didn't yell out at him.
I didn't understand how you could have alcohol in your home and not want to drink it. It made no fucking sense to me. He had bought it because his dad had been visiting. So he bought a 12-pack or an 18-pack or whatever it was, had it at the bottom of his fridge. And I'm like, what is this? And he goes, oh yeah, I bought that last year. My dad was here. It's like, well, it's not good forever. This isn't beans. This is beer, right? And so when we bought the house and moved in together, we're dumping the beer down the drain and the whole townhouse is stinking of beer. But it was just mind-boggling to me that somebody could have alcohol and not want to drink it. That was it.
he shared to me, you also shared, David's response to that was, we were on a camping trip once and Erica looked at him, they had beer and, they were with a group and Erica said, you can have a beer. And he said, that seems too far away to go get it.
And it was like 10 feet.
And how for us alcoholics, that didn't make sense to us. How do you make it work together? How do you find the grace, both working a program, both blending a family, and dealing with a child who is actively using?
Yeah. So, I think one of the keys for us is that we each work our own individual program. Erica has hers, she has her meetings, she has her tribe. I give up. And I have mine. I have my service work, I have my sponsees, I have my meetings that I attend, and different things that I'm involved with. But what it has done for me specifically, but I think for us as well, is it's given us a common language. So when I'm feeling overwhelmed or when I'm being cruel or when I'm being judgmental, I now know, okay, there's a character defect in play here. What is it? What's driving it? Okay, is it fear? Is it ego? What's the deal? I can look at that. I can share it with a sponsor. I can pray and meditate on it. And if needed, I can make amends. And we use that common language. We have group consciences at our home. This was, me, Eagle Scout, altar boy, have all the answers, have the perfect image, have the perfect life. I don't know what the hell a group conscience is. A group conscience is whatever I decide is going to be going on this week. So we do those sort of things. That's how recovery works for us, I think.
And then just in closing, for anybody who's sitting here, for anybody who's watching online who says, I'm struggling so much, my partner, my wife, she won't get sober, my child is, lost and there's so much going on, or I'm trying to work a program. What would be your message for them, David?
Yeah, so for the family members, I did not know that I was living a life where I was in this pit of despair. I had no idea I was in a pit of despair, and I had no idea that there was a way out, that there was a different way to live, that there were tools and people and resources available to me. Now I do. So my message to a family member would be find that help, whether it's Al-Anon, Nar-Anon, or some other method, therapy, what have you. Don't try to do this alone. You are affected by the disease of addiction. For the addicts, my message would be, you know who these loved ones are in your life. You can't help them out of that pit, but others like me can. So don't leave them in that pit. Advise them to find some help.
I think for me, I would just say, there is a solution, right? If you've made it into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous or any Anonymous, you've won. You've won. You've made it into a meeting of recovery. And I heard in my first probably 6 months, people would say like 1 out of 36 people in this room will still be sober in a year. And I remember sitting there thinking, well, screw you, I'm going to be that one, right? The rest of you can go all back out and drink, but not me. And it was that stubbornness that kept me coming back. But what I didn't realize was how many people never make it in. If the people that, if all the people around that needed Alcoholics Anonymous made it into a meeting, the meeting would break some fire code. So we're just lucky. We're very, very blessed. If you've made it into a meeting, just stay. Just freaking stay. Grab a hold of somebody and stay, because you have won. You have made it in. All you got to do now is hold on, and it does work.
You guys, thank you so much for being our guest storytellers and for being a part of this community and for being part of the home team. It has been such a pleasure to get to know both of you. And if you have any questions, they're going to hang out. Erica promised she wouldn't bolt. So if you guys have any questions, you'd like to learn more about Naranon or AA, feel free to talk to the Garrity's. And thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Steps are tricky. Want me to take that from? Oh, Bob was going to take that. Thank you so much, David and Erica. Is my mic on? My mic's on. Check, 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 check. 1, 2. Man, I said it last service. I'm just so grateful that we have here in this community voices of not just experience, but voices of wisdom. So thank you for joining us tonight and sharing some of that with us. So grateful. All right, y'all, the way we close on a Saturday night is very similar to how we begin. We begin with celebrations, but we close with heartaches. The burdens that you've been carrying, the burdens that you have no business carrying on your own, because we suck at carrying them on our own. That's why we have community. So if you have a burden that you've been carrying and you want prayer, encouragement, community involvement, I invite you to raise up your hand, and Chase will pass around a mic, and Paul will pass around a mic. And if you're online, again, just drop them in the YouTube comments or the Facebook comments. And be reminded, we have a God that always hears the cries of the people. So there's a very important part of our time together. Let's take 3 minutes.
My name's Vienna. I had a really close friend of mine, someone I considered a brother, that passed away recently from an overdose. So could use some prayers.
All right, prayers for them. Thank you for sharing that with us, Anna.
My name is Sabrina, and I am taking care of my mother-in-law right now, and she has dementia, and it just keeps on getting worse and worse, and we're moving her into our home right now, but it's just really hard on all of us. And if you could just please just pray for our family just going through this hard time right now. Thank you.
Yeah, prayers for your family and you, Sabrina. Thank you for sharing that with us.
I've had a couple people pass away this last week from fentanyl overdoses. If we could just keep them in our prayers.
Yeah. Prayers for you, Layla, and all those who loved those ones who passed away from fentanyl.
Grant, I just pray that when things get tough, I don't isolate. Because lately I just moved out of sober living about a month and a half ago. And yeah, I've just been trying not to isolate, so.
All right, brother. Lifting up prayers. Glad you're here, dude.
Yeah, hey, my name's Mark. A good friend of mine, Joseph Gann, passed away last week, drinking himself to death. And my prayers go out to him and his family. And I'd also like to keep my boss in the prayers. A good friend of his committed suicide earlier this week. So just keep Justin in your prayers and the Gann family in your prayers. Thank you.
All right, prayers for them, man.
My name's Derek. I just want to lift up my father, who's still out there struggling with fentanyl meth, and it's just getting worse. And then another young lady that we're trying to help to rehab, she's also out there doing fentanyl meth, and I just pray that she makes the choice to get the help.
Yeah, prayers for your dad and prayers for her. Lifting them up.
My name is Ali. I just want to pray for all my sisters in recovery at Tribe and at Pathfinders, and thank them for all the lovely help and support that they've given me. My mom went back out recently and is homeless by choice and is using. So if you guys could just say a prayer for her. My uncle passed away about 4 days prior to that, and I think that had a lot to do with my mom's relapse. So just want to say a prayer for her.
Yeah, prayers for your mom. Got time for one more. 10 seconds left. And Paul's on the run.
Hi, I'm Shannon. I'm just praying for my friend Cody. He went back out again. Bless his heart. I'm fine. I'm in a hotel. Thank God. Still alive, but fighting for his life tonight in the ER. So
right.
he's just losing hope, and we're hoping to just that he's going to be all right. So thank you.
Prayers for Cody, lifting him up. Thank you, gentlemen, for passing the mic around. Kai, I'm wondering if you'd want to join me up here for Heartaches tonight. Would you be willing to do that? Oh, I need to give you this mic. Kai will be sharing a piece of her story on the 26th because you are how many days clean of fentanyl?
134.
134 days clean from fentanyl. So new life does happen. We're going to have a couple of guest storytellers and then a guest storyteller, but we're going to have stories that evening, and I'm so grateful you're going to share with us some of that story. So can't wait for that. Join me for Heartaches. You can read the first one. I'll read the next one, then we'll go back and forth with our online people. Okay. You get the first long one.
Brian O'Brien says, a month ago, they gave my dad 3 to 9 months to live due to cancer. He came home yesterday after spending several days in the hospital to in-home hospice. The hospice nurse said that he probably won't last a week. Please pray that they can at least keep him comfortable and that he's brave in knowing he's headed to heaven.
All right. Prayers for you, brother. Glad you're with us tonight, Brian. Angela says, prayers to let go of the things I cannot control. Please just turn me into pure love so I can keep helping those I need to. Angela, prayers for you. Sounds a lot like the Serenity Prayer. We'll close with that tonight.
Yes.
Prayers for you, Angela.
Tiffany Rosewood, I'm struggling with a lot of heartache and confusion in the middle of a divorce. I would love prayers of strength and comfort during this time and beyond.
All right, Tiffany, lifting you up. Glad you're with us. Stephen says prayers for Jill M. She has severe heart failure, needs valve surgery. She is not well enough to undergo the surgery. Prayers for her and her family. Thank you, as always. Stephen, lifting her up, lifting you up. Glad you're part of this community. Glad you're here. Kai, thank you for joining me up here. And I can't wait to hear some of your story in a few weeks. It's going to be awesome. All right, y'all. I just want to say, if this is your community, if this is your home, we exist because of your generous giving. And we are so grateful that you are part of that with us. We are funded by you, the people. So thank you for that. There's a giving box here. Paul is lighting it up as he does. There's a giving box there if you want to give on your way out. There's also a giving box outside of these doors. No donation is too small. Everything helps. When a lot of hands pitch in, it makes the load lighter. Is it true? And if you aren't the cash type people, there are 3 ways to give online. The first way is you can download the free Spiritual Community app. It's got all our content on it, messages, guest storytellers. There's a giving button on there. You can give weekly or monthly or one time, however you want to do it. You could do the exact same thing at freespiritualcommunity.com, our website. Or you can text the number on your screen. It walks you through a very simple set of instructions. Your generous giving here helps the mission of breaking the silence of addiction thrive. And what do we do here? We create space for healing, recovery, and spiritual connection. And remember, if you want to give specifically to helping this become our permanent home, which is called the Home at Last campaign, click the Home at Last button. If you want it to get matched in the next 3 weeks, put in the memo, match me, and it'll get matched up to $25,000. Whoo, it's been a good night, y'all. It's always good to be with you here on a Saturday night. Shall we close in a prayer? I invite you to open your hands. Just a sign of openness, open to where God is moving in your life, in your midst. You're open to Spirit breathing in you and through you and all around you, because God is as close to you as breathing. If you don't know the Serenity Prayer, it goes like this. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen. My free brothers and sisters, all kinds of grace and peace to you this week, and we will see you next time.